Turning to other hot-burning news, fire of this day, the confirmation hearings of Brett Kavanaugh. When the week began, it was the widespread consensus that the hearing of Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh was going to be ho-hum. But in fact, there have been more plot twists, dramas, and complications than expected. And today, Senator Cory Booker led a revolt over what Democrats felt was a bogus rule about keeping certain documents from Kavanaugh's years in the Bush White House confidential.
I knowingly violated the rules that were put forth, and I'm told that the committee confidential rules have knowing consequences. And so, sir, I come from a long line, as all of us do as Americans, and understand what that kind of civil disobedience is, and I understand the consequences. So I am right now, before your process is finished, I'm going to release the email about racial profiling. And I understand that the penalty comes with potential ousting from the Senate.
Any senator, officer, or employee of the Senate who shall disclose the secret or confidential business or proceedings of the Senate, including the business and proceedings of the committees, subcommittees, and offices of the Senate, shall be liable, if a senator, to suffer expulsion from the body, and if an officer or employee, to dismissal from the service of the Senate and to punishment or contempt. So I would correct the senator's statement. There is no rule. There is clearly a rule that applies.
Then apply the rule and bring the charges.
Mr. Chairman.
Joining me now, Senator Cory Booker, who is a member of Judiciary Committee and made his protest quite clear today in that confirmation hearing. First, how did that come about?
Well, last night, I out of frustration that there were documents that we had in our possession that they were not allowing the public to see after repeated requests from Democrats. I just used that documents last night in violation of procedure, and it began to bubble up again this morning as they were scrambling to deal with what I had done. And so there was a lot of heat going into that. And at some point, I just had enough, and basically have been doing what I've been doing all day. It's just releasing document after document after document. I've released about 20 so far.
Okay,
in violation of their sham rules.
Right. So Bill Burke, who's the lawyer, who is, by the way, Steve Bannon's lawyer, Don McGahn's lawyer, and also the lawyer for the Bush administration overseeing the release of documents, basically said to reporters today, this was a stunt you pulled because they already cleared all the documents. These documents were cleared, and Cory Booker just is grandstanding. Is that true? Were the documents already clear, or were you violating the rules? Like, I don't know.
I violated the rules, and I am violating the rules. And if it was just that histrionics, then why would John Cornyn do something that really I've never seen before in the Senate, which is literally accuse me of breaking rules and telling me that I was facing an ousting of the Senate? Really threatened me with that. So if what he's saying is true, then John Cornyn wouldn't have gone there. And the reality is it's all moot at this point because I'm continuing to release documents that they haven't approved yet.
So wait, okay. So this is a small thing, but I just want to make sure. You go there and you say this is a ridiculous rule. We have these documents. These should be public. What is the possible rationale for keeping them? You release them in violation. John Cornyn reads you the Riot Act and says the penalty for this is expulsion. And then later, what you're saying is they're lying to save face by basically saying, like, no, we already said it was fine, but that's a lie, is what you're saying.
Yeah, well, it all started last night when I broke the rules. Now they're scrambling to try to do it. John Cornyn went where he should not have gone. And that's why I said civil disobedience. I will accept responsibility because they know it's a sham rule.
Well, he also doesn't have the votes for expulsion. You're not going to get expelled from the Senate.
I'm not going to get expelled for the Senate. Right. And so so now they're trying to clean it up, talking about one document when I've already released 20 documents.
Okay. Here's the thing about these documents, which are fascinating. There's 40,000 in this bunch that got dumped, right? I don't even understand. What is their stated reason? This guy was in the Bush administration for years. They're being turned over and curated by, again, Steve Bannon's lawyer. It's a real thing. What was even the stated purpose that we can't see these? They seem entirely germane. Some of them actually make Brett Kavanaugh look like a pretty thoughtful dude.
Right, and so that's the point. There's absolutely no reason. These aren't done because they're classified or national security. There's no legitimate reason for them to be withheld. But that's not even the largest point. The largest point is they're coming out, literally, we got 1,000 documents at 1:20 p.m. today, 1,000 documents on the last day to question him. These were just a fraction of the totality of the documents, only about 10% of the total documents of this man's body of work we've been able to see. And so we've just gone through all of these hearings, having 10% of his resume in order to evaluate him. Some of those documents might be exculpatory. Some of them will bring up issues around torture, around Roe, around race in the law, you name it. And so this whole process has been a sham. It's we're being blocked from a full airing of this person's record, the full opportunity to vet them. And that's why this should catch everybody at a time where we are in a crisis in our country with what's going on in the White House, where this person has expressed views about giving the president a free pass should he get in trouble. All of this stuff is going on for him, a lifetime appointment, and we don't even know his record.
As I watched the drama unfold today, and it was fascinating for a bunch of reasons. How much is what's happening because of Merrick Garland for this reason? Your perception, your colleagues' perception of the gravity of the violation of traditions and norms by Mitch McConnell in not offering the president even a hearing on his nominee makes whatever norms or procedures, whatever they're imposing now, seem preposterous to you.
You know, Merrick Garland is an insult and injury in and of itself. But this one, this is to me grievous that we are rushing a Supreme Court justice through at a time where we don't have hundreds of thousands of pages, thousands and thousands of documents. This is not the way it's done. And then this sham process to shield documents from the public, this is in and of itself rotten to the core. And again, we know what happened with Merrick Garland was rotten as well.
So there's a question about, are you going to get any more? Can you get any more? Can you do anything to delay? Because there are, as you said, and Mitch McConnell flagged this, apparently was lobbying the White House not to pick Brett Kavanaugh precisely because of this issue. Hundreds of thousands of documents from his time in the Bush administration. Like, what's going to happen?
Well, again, I don't know. We've shaken up the process today. We're seeing them move to try to release more documents. So I think we'll get some, but it'll still be a drop in the bucket about the totality. What I'm hoping is that people will understand that at a time that we need more legitimacy in the Supreme Court, at the time the Supreme Court might face real issues about can a president be indicted, can a president pardon themselves and the like, that perhaps some Republicans will see that, wait a minute, at a time where we might be going into a constitutional crisis, the legitimacy of the court is important. And we're either going to join Democrats in demanding that he recuse himself, or perhaps we should pause. Now, I don't know how that's going to play out. I've seen on health care some Republicans shift at the last minute. And so that's what I'm going to continue to press for. I don't care if somebody tells me this is an inevitable conclusion. I'm going to fight every single step of the way.
There is a third round of questioning. Those hearings are ongoing. Am I correct about that?
You are. As soon as I'm done with you, I'm running back to the committee room.
And there's more. And then that will be. Will that be it for questions tonight? And then there's more testimony tomorrow?
No, that'll be it for the open testimony, and then we will go into a private room where the public cannot see and ask him questions, some of them which are appropriate for being private, but then those committee confidential documents, the ones I haven't been able to release yet, and a lot of others, we'll get a chance to talk to him about that. And that, to me, again,
that is crazy.
Should not be. That is absolutely
Wait a second.
Crazy.
But they're just committee confidential because Bill Burke, this lawyer, said that? I don't get it. They're not classified.
No, and who is Bill Burke? Again,
that's literally the one making the determination about what you talk in closed session?
Yes, and that's why, again, if you read my Twitter account, that's why I am releasing these things, regardless of what the consequences are to my time in the Senate. But I promise you, at least I believe strongly, that because they're sham rules, they're not going to move to oust me from the Senate.
Well, yeah, I mean, they don't have the votes for expulsion, so just fire up your phone and live stream the closed session. All right, you really want to shake things up. Senator Cory Booker, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.